This is Cole Reyes, and you're listening to UND Football 360.
Hawks offense is grounded in Vermilion. This week, they're back home at the Alara Center taking on Illinois State. It's Hawks versus Redbirds with a shot at the playoffs on the line, and this is UND Football 360. This is UND Football 360. Shannon Swigert with former Fighting Sioux All-American Kelly Howe and 2001 national champ Matt Nelson. We're going to go to Matt Nelson first. I said it in the open. The offense was grounded last week. Were you shocked by the offensive output by the Hawks last week in Vermilion?
I was a little shocked. I was hoping for more. You know, we talk about things that we want to see. I was hoping that we would go down to South Dakota and guns a-blazing, but it just did not happen. Defense side of the ball, great effort by our defense. I mean, they kept us in it the whole game. A few breakdowns, few mental errors on defense, but we were able to recover and hold them out of the end zone for most of the game. We just needed more out of our offense.
We're going to turn to the All-American. You tweeted it, opportunity squandered. Now we got to turn the page. We'll do that later in the show. But your thoughts on the performance last week in Vermilion?
It started out where I thought we were going to get the three-phase effort out of them, but yeah, like Matt said, never materialized. And they just gotta. I mean, we'll get into it here, but they gotta regroup now and all the marbles this weekend.
We are going to take a look at that 14-10 loss to the Coyotes, how that positions the Hawks moving forward. We will look at that in our Kelly Howe Agency Nodak Mutual Insurance Rewind, which is up next. We've got Sam Herder in our Development Homes 360 guest. Boy, there's a lot of things happening here in the FCS playoff future. There's so much going on. It's a great week to have Sam on. Later in the show, we're going to have our Thunder Lake Lodge 360 game preview. It's UND versus Illinois State, a 1 p.m. kickoff at the Alara Center. Before we do that, we're going to thank the people that make this possible. Rumors Sports Bar, Grill, and Casino, Development Homes Incorporated, Thunder Lake Lodge of Reamer, Minnesota, Kelly Howe Agency, Nodak Mutual Insurance, Interstate Industrial, and the Toasted Frog. Right back to Kelly, 14-10 Kelly, right out of the gate. Red Wilson hits the opening kickoff return, and it was like, is it deja vu all over again?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, and they devastated. I mean, it devastated South Dakota, I think, a little bit. You know, like, whoa, okay, geez, now we got to kind of mentally regroup. I mean, you go into the half up 10-0, and I think that shows, that opening kickoff kind of shocked them.
Yeah, it deflated them. And, if we could have just gotten a little bit more and gone up 2 scores, it was 14-0 or maybe even a little bit more, 17-0 into the halftime, I think we would have been looking really a lot better than what we had.
Yeah, I got a bunch of notes written down. But, yeah, I mean, the defense was call it a bend but don't break. I mean, they we might as well jump right into Wyatt Pedigo's play because that was the epitome of bending but not breaking.
100%. And if there were ever a play to win a football game, it's unfortunate that we didn't win that game because of Wyatt Pedigo's play. I mean, that's going to be a career highlight for him for sure, and a season highlight for a play in the highlight reels.
Well, it doesn't get much better than that. I mean, just the effort of chasing him down. I mean, Carter Bell was weaving, cutting back and forth, and UND was trying to get him down, but Pedigo stayed with it. And to have what I like is 90% of the time, more than that, you see the defender just tackle the guy when he catches up to him. I got to get to him and I'm going to tackle him. Well, he's already got 60 yards or whatever it was. What's the point of tackling him? You might as well go for the ball. Okay, and give him the touch. It's going to be first and goal at the 1 if you tackle him. You might as well go for the ball, right? See, that told me he has a football acumen. Very smart player, very intelligent, realizes the scenario. He's confident in himself out there to where I'm chasing him down, I'm ripping this thing out because there's no point in tackling him. And he completely rips. I mean, The rip was perfect.
It was perfect.
It's like you work on in practice.
Did you have any deja vu watching that, Kelly?
Yeah, it was.
Do you have any regrets not stripping the ball out before you tackled that guy?
Yeah, now more of a puncher. I'm a punch. You can punch or rip, and I did the punch, but here's where his play, is better than the one I had. He rips it out at the 1. Okay, mine was around the 5 or 10, somewhere in there, but he rips it out at the 1. Okay, to close enough to where you could go to review and make sure it wasn't a touchdown. Then what does he do? He jumps up and goes and falls on it in the end zone. He had the wherewithal to know that the ball's right in front of him.
Exactly.
And fall on it. So now it's a touchback for UND. He did it all himself.
Right.
Holy.
Amazing play.
Yep.
He now has 4 fumble recoveries on the year, which shows ball awareness. That leads the nation. And one thing, if you're wondering, how impactful that was, if you were watching social media on the Twitter world, what was being said was, show this to your high school football players about never giving up, never quitting. And that, that is going to be a highlight reel. It's still outstanding. Despite the loss, it is still an outstanding single effort by Wyatt Pedigo.
He's been playing well all year, and I was a little worried about guys looking tired. Like down at Murray, they kind of looked a little bit tired because they're getting beat up, and it's just the way it is at this time of the year. But he hasn't slowed down at all. Pedigo is still going 100%, and I'm sure he has to be beat up. We only play 3 inside linebackers, and he's one of them. And I'm sure if I had to guess, I would say he plays 80 to 90% of the snaps in a game. Okay,
For sure.
all year, and he hasn't missed a game. And so for him to be chasing guys down like that is just amazing testament to the player he is.
So, guys, staying on the defensive side of the ball, were you at all surprised that the Coyotes abandoned the run in the second half and went to the air?
Well, in hindsight, no, because they couldn't get anything going. I was surprised. Our run defense in the interior was very good all day. I think they had 84 yards rushing.
Did a pretty good job with Tice all game. We were
he had
able to stop, slow him down. Yeah. He didn't really get the breakout runs that he usually does. So that we did a good job at, up front. We're getting penetration. Did a fantastic job in the first half. So, a little bit surprised, but hindsight's 20/20.
Some critical points in the second half. The roughing the passer call on third down, which, again, questionable. How does a 295-pound man running full speed stop that fast? So,
Well,
again,
there was 3 of them around him.
There were 3 of them around him, but again, it wasn't. I didn't feel it was egregious. And some would say, well, just don't put a hand on him. Well, in the heat of the moment. So that was unfortunate. And then the interception drop, which how many yards were ahead of Caden Koppinen? It's hard to see on TV, but I felt he's back to the 30-yard line. Some
minimal.
I talked to people who were at the game, said there was nothing in front of him. They said it might have been a pick six. So those, again, a couple of missed opportunities on the defensive side, but overall defensively, pretty good performance. You hold the number 6 team to 14 points. You got to score points.
Yeah, it was a solid all-around effort. 14 points, yes, great, but pass defense wasn't nearly what it needed to be. And C.J. Siegel getting hurt, that
didn't
obviously, him not being in the game, and he had little concussion ding, but they held him out. I think he was fine. From everything I heard, he was fine from my sources, and they just wouldn't let him in because 2023.
Yeah.
If you think a guy got anything,
20 years
take
ago,
his
he would have
helmet.
been fine, get back in there.
Yeah, and he would have been fine too because it wasn't much. But so now it's getting to the point where, if I'm, I don't think he could have hid that one because it was something did happen, but you hide it. When I was playing, I hid everything. Because I don't want to be in the training room on Sunday morning. That was my reason because I'm going out Saturday night. And I'm not getting up at 8 in the morning to go in the training room. So I'm hiding everything, knees, ankles, everything that hurts, right? Well, this day and age, it's getting to the point where these guys, if you're going to say, hey, geez, I kind of got hit hard there in the head or something, they're going to pull your helmet. It's like, well, for the rest of the game? There's no gray area, is there?
No, there isn't.
I don't think there is anymore. And so that's where it's, and even shoulders, knees, if they think they see something now, you might be done for the day. If you tell them, if you think you just hurt, you can't tell them. So that hurt UND because he wanted to go back in. They wouldn't let him in. Jeez.
So obviously there's a concussion protocol.
Yeah.
Did CJ go through concussion protocol? Did he pass? Did he?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know any of that. I just know that he was standing right there. You could see him on the sideline, right there. Ready. I mean, if he doesn't think he's ready to go, he's just kind of lingering in the back or hanging around, looking. But he looked antsy, like I want to get back in there type of thing. And oh boy, yeah. So that hurt. And the pass defense, like I said, it just wasn't good enough. I think at 330 yards passing, or that's just South Dakota's not a good outfit on offense. They're pedestrian. They play to their defense. Okay, which is fine. They have a good defense. So what they try to get the run game going. They try to hit you with quick stuff, make you miss tackles. And if not, we're going to punt, right? Well, 300 yards passing to them? Jeez. I mean, it's like kind of don't want to give that up to that team.
How much was that just to the tight end alone?
Yeah, he was breaking tackles. Galbraith's good.
Yeah, he was their main guy all game long.
Well, let's turn our attention to the offense. Field goal. Basically what the offense mustered after the special teams. Touchdown, another field goal attempt, which could have changed the dynamics at that time. So that would have changed how the Hawks were structuring their fourth quarter. But, Kelly, we're going to go to you first. Your thoughts on the offensive performance Saturday?
Well, they obviously didn't get it going the way we thought it would. Disappointing overall. I thought the run game was there. Consistently, not big chunks, but 3 to 5 yard chunks, moving the line. Okay. And South Dakota's good. Mm-hmm. So we were moving the line. We were getting some holes. I thought they should have stuck with it a little more, considering how tight the game is. Okay. We weren't down. We were up 10-7. We were up 10-0. I think they should have probably just stuck with it more, kept playing safe, but instead of throwing safe, just run safe. You know what I mean? Because Zebarth was back. Yeah. He was running hard again.
And it looked like we had it schemed up pretty well, where we were spreading them out, right? Yep. And because we knew that we weren't going to be able to just pound the rock up the middle all game long, so we'd spread it out, out to the side, outside zone, and then we'd go up the middle with Gavin, and he'd get 3, 5, 6, 7 yards a carry. Yep. It was working, and we were moving the chains, and then we would just self-destruct when we got into close to the red zone.
Yeah, passing game. And so then we go to the passing game. It just wasn't there. It was, how many times did Tommy drop back, look, and not have anything? And then tick, 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 tick. Now he's turning left. Now he's turning right. His first read just wasn't there. They were covering everything up. They were dropping 7 because they thought their 4 could get home. And they got some pressure, but our O-line played all right, but the guys just weren't open. So we were trying to run I would call it a more conventional passing attack. We were trying to move downfield a little bit, 5 to 15 yard range. We weren't throwing 1 yard bubble screens all game, but it just wasn't there. So then Tommy has to scramble, and then these defenders, they're handsy. Okay, they're tough, they're physical, handsy. I mean, we saw that in the Big Sky over the years and stuff, and our guys were having trouble getting open. And usually, we've talked about in the past, our receivers are very good scramble routes, very good football knowledge. They know how to get open. They weren't getting open, and it was a struggle all day to move the ball through the air.
Yeah, it was physical in pass coverage. In the post game press conference, Bubba alluded to that and said we weren't happy with some of the things that were going on in that. It was consistent. It was a handsy, physical pass coverage day, including when the Hawks were on defense, I felt as well.
Well, and it was a type of game where one big play wins it. And they hit a couple, and all of a sudden they're up 14-10, right? The post to Bo Belquist down in the end zone was the one we had to hit. Went off. I don't know, did it hit his fingertips or it went right over him? But Tommy just threw it a little further. I mean, good throw, but he just threw it a little bit high. But Bo was running. It was a little play action, and he was probably triple. There was 3 guys, but he was behind all 3. So Tommy had a chance. I mean, the throw had to be perfect, and it was just a little high. That's where you got to hit. That's why I brought it up, because there was only so many chances in this game, and that was one of them that they needed to hit, and they didn't hit it. And then I think right after that, we missed the field goal, because that was around the 30, somewhere around there. So it would have been a nice shot, deep shot. And the field goal, though, let's talk. Okay, first one he hit good, C.J. Elrics. I want to give credit here. Because we've been tough on kickers. I've been tough on him. That second one, he nutted that thing. That was through the top of the uprights from 47. He missed it by what? 3 feet?
Not much.
Yeah, I mean,
in fact,
a couple feet to the right.
It's always hard, especially in indoor stadiums, to know where it is. I always, even when I'm in person at the Alaris, I have to watch the officials.
Yeah.
I thought it was good. I thought, that he'd hit it. He hit it very, very well. It was, 46 yarder, I think.
High through the uprights, too.
Yeah.
The other thing we have to remember, there
was,
if I remember right, there was a sack on third down, so we lost yardage going into that, and it was, kind of just a jailbreak situation, jailbreak sack. But yes, C.J. Elrics, we have probably found the kicker, and that was solid. Special teams, once again, solid, scored, coverage was good. It's, the power outage on offense this week, and it seems like that inconsistency of is defense going to be playing well? Defense played well enough, despite giving up all the passing yards, played well enough to win the ballgame.
Well, when we play three-phase, we win 49-24 over NDSU. Okay, that's how it looks when we play three-phase.
Right.
Because this is a team that their talent level, let's be honest, it's an 8-3 talent level. It's not a 11-0 talent level. They're not going to do that, okay? So when they all feed off each other, and Gavin Zebarth is churning on the inside, and the crowd's starting to roar, and all of a sudden the defense is a little juiced up, right? They get out there and they're fired up. Well, no, all of a sudden, especially the kickoff team's a little juiced up. They fly down, tackle the guy inside the 15, right? UND has to feed off each other, is my point.
And we started off with exactly what we wanted, and we've heard it before. We know that this team responds to momentum. Well, we had everything lined up for a great momentum in the start of the game, and we just didn't. We didn't respond to momentum this game, and I'm trying to find reasons why we didn't.
Well, fellas, we're going to flip the script a little bit because we got a lot of content remaining in this show. We got to look ahead to what's happening in the playoff picture. We're going to do that coming up next in our Development Homes 360 guest, Sam Herder of Hero Sports. But before we do that, final thoughts, Kelly Howe, on last week's performance and how that sets us up going into the final regular season game of the season.
Well, it should give you confidence on the road at the very least. I know you're at home this weekend, but UND struggles have been on the road, but they played the number 6 team in the country to where they were leading the vast majority of the game, let's say. They were leading it. So they should have the confidence to know, hey, we're right there, but we're not good enough to just have one phase not ready to go. Mm-hmm. So I think it was a slight confidence booster, slight wake-up call that, hey, we're so close, we didn't make 2 more plays to win it. I mean, I went to the Shanley-Minot game. Shanley was up 28-7 in the third quarter and lost. Minot all of a sudden came alive, started making plays. Well, it turned out to be a game of plays. Who made the most plays? When it was all said and done, you can say, well, Minot made probably 2 to 3 more plays in a game where there was 30 big plays. I mean, it was a crazy game, right? They made more big plays. All it took was UND converting, 2nd and 24 on defense, 2nd and 25 on defense, 3rd and 25 on defense, not allowing a first down. There's a play, right? There it is. Bo Belk was coming up with that one in the end zone that was thrown a little bit higher.
Caden Competent interception.
Oh, that might have been a pick 6, and I tweeted right away. Hit him in the chest. I don't know. There's not much we can do about it, but yeah, there's 3 right there. So you got to say, okay, frustrating as it is, all we had to do was convert on a couple of those. We walk out of there with a win over the number 6 team in the country, and we're going home to play for a seed. That's how close it is. They just got to look at each other and say, hey, this weekend, let's make sure we do it.
So, Matt Nelson, you're Danny Freund. Little power outage on your offense last week, but what are you taking into this week as you battle for that playoff spot?
Well, if I'm Danny, I'm telling our guys that, hey, just like Kelly said, we are so close. We are 1 or 2 plays away. We need to be able to finish and believe in ourselves and believe in your teammates. And when defense is out there and making plays, we gotta step up and go back out there and prove that we can make plays on offense. That's what I'm saying to the team.
This week's Development Homes 360 guest is Sam Herder from Hero Sports. He's their senior FCS analyst. Sam, always good to have you on. We haven't had you on all year this year, but what a great week to bring you on with everything on the line in the FCS playoffs.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me. And this is the busiest week of the year, no doubt, with at-large positioning, seed positioning, auto bid, a lot of auto bids still to be decided into the FCS playoffs. So a lot to talk about, and I appreciate you guys having me.
Sam, before we jump into the fray here, is this one of the crazier years that you can remember as far as, I would say, the bubble goes?
It kind of seems that way, honestly. Usually, when we get to week 10, like a couple weeks ago, usually, things are looking really crazy where there's, a lot of different teams out there, whether it be for positioning for seeds, whether it be for, the playoff bubble. But usually in past years, we get some results in the last couple of weeks that kind of clears things up. And that hasn't happened so far this year. The bubble's still looking like it's, 6-7 teams battling for those last couple of spots, whereas in years past, maybe there's only, maybe 2, 3, 4 teams battling for that last spot. There's still several, possibly 4 teams battling for that number 8 seed. And so it does seem like this year is just a little bit more chaotic when it comes to the playoff picture. Well,
let's start with the Big Sky. All right, that's one that I find interesting just because we were in it. We know it. Our fans know it the best. By my math, it looks like Montana State going to play this weekend, the Brawl of the Wild, and that'll be a big game for seeding. But those 2 are in. Idaho should be in. Now, I wanted to get your feeling on Sac State and Davis. The Causeway Classic this weekend actually takes on a big meaning with Sac State at 7-3 and Davis at 6-4. Give me your thoughts on that. If Davis wins this game, who gets in? Do both get in? Do neither get in? Or what have you thought so far when you looked at that?
Yeah, the result of that game is going to be fascinating either way, because if if Sac State wins, they'll be 8-3. They won't have any ranked FCS wins though, but they will have an FBS Power 5 win, over a struggling Stanford team. And Sac State with that resume would at least be considered for a seed, but I don't know overall if that's really a seedable, resume. You're really lacking ranked FCS wins there. But if UC Davis wins, then both finish 7-4. And I think in this scenario, I don't know if both teams would get in. That would mean 5 teams from the Big Sky, which has happened, last year. But just with how packed the bubble has been, especially with UC Davis not, really being ranked in recent group weeks, I don't know if that would potentially result in the playoff committee saying, okay, it's going to be one or the other, either UC Davis or Sac State. Conventional wisdom would say that most committee members would lean UC Davis because of that head-to-head, and bump Sac State out, even though, Sac State would have that Power 5 win. There's potential that both could get left out, but I think the Big Sky has kind of warranted enough respect from the playoff committee where it probably won't be a 3-bid league, but at the same time, a 5-bid league also might not seem, as likely because, like I said, the playoff committee doesn't always mirror what the polls say, but sometimes they kind of are in the same lockstep when it comes to thinking. And for UC Davis to go from, not really even being close to being ranked to all of a sudden in the playoff field, that might seem like a pretty drastic jump in 1 week.
Could you imagine the outrage if Davis beats them and they're both 7-4 and Sac gets in just because of the beating a terrible Stanford team early in the year when they were still getting their bearings early in the year under Troy Taylor? Jeez, that would, if I was Davis, I don't know. I'd be pretty mad, Sam, but I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's why I kind of think the playoff committee would lean UC Davis over Sac State. Again, they could put both teams in, but with how loaded the bubble is, That might be a big ask to get both of those teams in. And every committee is different. I think they serve 5 or 6 year terms, and so they have about 3 new members every year. And sometimes the playoff committee will talk about overall body of work. Sometimes they'll talk about, what did you do for me in November? And so Sac State would probably maybe still have the better resume, but UC Davis literally just beat Sac State in this scenario a day before Selection Sunday. So I would if I was on the committee, and I had to do one or the other, I would probably go with UC Davis.
Jeez, wow. After all we heard about Sac State all year, and then for them, if they lose this game, it would be devastating for the fans, the program, be crazy. But yeah, somebody basically Sac State just has to win that game. Is what I'm getting out of that, right?
Yeah, winning in for Sac State and maybe be a seed if you're Sac State, but that's a different discussion on whether that's a seedable resume or not.
All right, so the CAA, let's move out east. We don't need to spend as much time on this one. It looks like we got Delaware, Villanova, and Albany. That's who I got in. So that's 3, and then Richmond and William and Mary. Richmond 7-3, William and Mary 6-4. They play each other. Now, Rhode Island plays Towson. I'll leave them out for a sec. But talk about the Richmond, William and Mary game. Is that if William and Mary wins, do they get in? Richmond at 8-3, if they win, is that a lock? Or what are your opinion on that? What's your opinion on that game?
Yeah, so from the CAA, UAlbany, is going to be in because they should win this weekend. I think the winner of the Delaware versus Villanova game, that the winner there should probably be a seed, in my opinion, and the loser will still be in my opinion. So there's 3 teams right there. I think if William and Mary beats Richmond, both of those teams, William and Mary and Richmond, are going to be left out. William and Mary would finish with 7 wins, but none of those wins are against ranked teams, and I don't think they would have the resume to get in. Richmond would be interesting if they beat William and Mary because Richmond would be 8-3 overall. They would be 7-1 in the CAA, and that could lead to a 3-way tie. Richmond at 7-1 in the CAA, UAlbany at 7-1, and then the winner of Nova versus Delaware would also be 7-1. So that's a 3-way tie. And I'm not even going to try to explain the auto bid tiebreakers from the CAA, but it could come down to point differential. So potentially whoever blows out their opponent the most this weekend could be the auto bid. I do think, as odd as it sounds, if Richmond doesn't get the auto bid and they're in the at-large pool at 8-3, they don't really have any wins over teams that are being considered for the playoffs. And so I think there is potential for an 8-3 Richmond team to be left out of the bracket if they don't get the auto bid, just because, they have 8 D1 wins out of the CAA. The CAA is usually pretty respected, but they have 15 members right now, which of course results in such an unbalanced scheduling. And Richmond got a great draw this year. And they just don't have any wins that really move the needle. Beating William and Mary this weekend would have been a great win, 10 weeks ago, but now it's not so much of a great win. So I think Richmond is nervous either way. They can potentially control their destiny if they beat William and Mary by 30 points. Then maybe they can get the auto bid. But as an at-large bid, I just don't know about Richmond right now.
So would you say the bubble teams, such as UND and all the Missouri Valley teams, they're hoping William and Mary wins this weekend?
Yeah, I definitely think so, because that would knock Richmond out of the playoff consideration, and William and Mary would, they would have their resume thrown up there as a potential playoff team. But again, William and Mary 7-4, no ranked wins. I don't think the Tribe would get in.
All right, let's transition over to the Missouri Valley here, our neck of the woods, and it is jammed up, Sam. We got a lot of teams looking to get in this weekend. We kind of, and actually things did happen a little bit. The UNI loss last weekend did clarify things. If they hadn't lost, it would be worse, I think, because I think they might have hurt themselves a little. Even I don't know, because okay, we got to get into this. I'm rambling, Sam, and I'm like, see how cluttered up this is. I started off on a tangent again. I don't even know what I'm saying here. Okay, we got South Dakota State, we got USD in. They're going to be seeds. Now we got six teams, Sam. Okay, we got NDSU, we got Southern Illinois, UNI, Youngstown, UND, and Illinois State. Okay. Before we get to UND, let's start with NDSU Northern Iowa. Okay, Sam. Now this NDSU 7-3, Northern Iowa 6-4. Okay, let's run some scenarios in your head, Sam. Obviously, if NDSU wins, they're in and they're possibly squeezing out the 8th seed. Northern Iowa wins. What do you think happens, Sam, between those two teams?
Yeah, so bubble teams, UND included, are cheering for Northern Iowa to lose here. In my opinion, that knocks Northern Iowa out at 6-5 out of the playoff bracket, and kind of just boosts everyone up, within the valley, kind of up the totem pole when it comes to potentially being in. But I do think if Northern Iowa wins, I'll count, you have South Dakota State, South Dakota, they're in. Northern Iowa, I think for sure, is in at 7-4. So there's 3 right there. I do think if UND beats Illinois State, I know we'll touch on that, probably a little bit later on, but I think UND, is in at 7-4 because they would have a head-to-head win over NDSU, who is also 7-4. So there's 4 teams right there. I still think NDSU is going to be in, even with a loss to Northern Iowa. They would be 7-4. But they have a head-to-head win over Southern Illinois, who also could be 7-4. So there's 5 teams right there. And last week at this time, I thought there was going to be 6 teams in from the Missouri Valley Football Conference, and that number 6 spot was going to be between Southern Illinois and Youngstown State. I now kind of wonder if both of those teams could end up being left out because, NC Central out of the MEAC is now looking like they could take an at-large bid. Last week at this time, I didn't think UIW was going to get an at-large bid, but just with how they're ranked, they're still being ranked decently high in the polls. I think the playoff committee is going to mirror that and put UIW in as an at-large bid. So I just don't know if there's going to be room for a 6th Missouri Valley Football Conference team, and that could leave Youngstown and Southern Illinois out at 7-4, even though they both have pretty good cases to make the bracket. I think both could end up getting left out.
Yeah, Southern Illinois has the FBS win, but there's just not much happening in the FCS world. It's just the Indiana State win this weekend isn't going to do much for them, so they're going to get to 7-4. Yeah, the more I looked at their resume, it wasn't very impressive. I think I put out a tweet the other day. They haven't scored. They can't score this year, which is kind of with Nick Baker at quarterback. You have to be a little surprised by that, aren't you, Sam?
Yeah, and it seems like they kind of flip-flop, a little bit. I want to say, 2019, they were actually playing really good defense, but their offense was struggling, but then in, I think it was 2021 or possibly last year, I'm getting the years mixed up, but their offense was really explosive, but their defense was a little more leaky, and now they've kind of flip-flop back to the offense just can't get things going, but the defense overall has been playing well. So the Southern Illinois does have a win over Austin Peay at the start of the year, and that's a good win. Austin Peay could end the year on a 9-game winning streak, potentially be a seed at 9-2. So that's another good win. But if it is between, if the Valley does get 6 bids in, and it is between Southern Illinois and Youngstown State, SIU probably has the better resume than Youngstown State because they have the Austin Peay win, they have the FBS win, but Youngstown State beat Southern Illinois 31-3, and so that head-to-head should also carry some weight. And so if we are in a position where the Valley does get 6 teams in and it's between Youngstown State and Southern Illinois, I really don't know what the playoff committee is going to do because I could easily make the argument either way between SIU and Youngstown State.
Right. Jeez. Yeah, this is why we had you on, Sam.
Hopefully I'm helping him. I'm almost confusing myself here.
Yeah, we just kind of look at each other sometimes I don't know what that makes sense of this.
Sam,
all I know is Montana's going to be playing at home. All right, we know that. Yeah. Put it on a headstone.
And Sam, towards your point of Southern Illinois being up and down, and one year defense is strong and offense is strong, I can't imagine cheering for a team like that. What their fans must go through.
Yeah, I know.
That's a little shot at our favorite football team because that's what we've been dealing with, this year, and the home versus away and what have you. And the one thing with Southern Illinois, Kelly made the case for the FBS win that Sac State had early over Stanford. I think that's kind of the same vein as Southern Illinois, Northern Illinois. They've got that FBS win on it, but I think as parity starts to come together in FBS and FCS, because Group of Five and FCS is looking more alike, especially with the transfer portal. I don't think those FBS wins carry as much weight, and I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts on that. Unless you're beating a Power Five, unless you're going in and beating Schmitty and Kalen DeBoer at Washington, I don't think they carry that much weight when you get a Group of Five win.
Yeah, I see your points, and I do agree, with you that, I do think the playoff committee, each committee member, I guess, can kind of weigh things differently, but I do think overall FBS wins still stand out to them. But I do know it's not like, okay, you have an FBS win, there's a check mark, next to your name. They do look at exactly who you beat, and how good that FBS team is. Of course, Stanford has been struggling, this year, but they are a Power Five, and so that just moves the needle a little bit more than a Group of Five. But yeah, I think there was, speaking of Southern Illinois, was it 2018 or 2019? I can't remember the years, but they finished 7-4 and they beat an FBS opponent. But I think it was like UMass, who was like one of the worst teams in the FBS, and SIU ended up getting left out of the playoffs, even though they had an FBS win. And so I do think, I don't know if they carry less weight the further we get into this transfer portal era, but I do know that they're not, all FBS wins are not created equally when it comes to the playoff committee.
Well, Sam, Kelly, and Matt and I are thinking about rounding up another 8 guys and taking on Akron on a Tuesday night match. And
Right.
Some of these, you look.
Did you guys watch that last night?
It's terrible. You just, and again, I'm really, I don't usually offer a lot of opinions on this show, but the whole Maction thing, I think it's obvious when you look at the Tuesday night, Thursday night, late season Maction games and nobody coming to them, that North Dakota State, as much as they want to be in FBS, would most likely not accept a MAC bid. They're looking Mountain West or something like that. But when you look at the funding differential between MAC teams, other than scholarships, but the facilities and funding, I'm going to make the argument the Missouri Valley Football Conference is a better football conference than the MAC. Sue me.
Right.
Sue me, Twitter world.
Yeah.
Go at me.
Top half.
Half.
Top 6, 7
Yeah,
look pretty similar in a way. Yeah.
They're funded better. They're more consistent. I just think some of these Group of Five conferences, they've been put together badly and they're inconsistent and what have you. But, towards your point, it is an FBS win. You still got 85 scholarships versus 63, and fourth quarter is what it usually comes down to. So.
Yeah, and kind of, speaking along that point, I've had this thought before, and I think I've said it before too, that a lot of complaints that, some people might have about the FCS, you can also apply to a good chunk of the Group of Five, whether it's, really bad crowds, in the whatever FCS playoffs. Well, the Group of Five gets some pretty bad crowds as well. Complain about the quality of football. Well, there is some bad football played in the Group of Five as well. I've seen some people say that, FCS football is not financially sustainable. Well, you could also say the same thing about Group of Five, because those programs are squeezing money out of their students even more so than the FCS. And so, I still think the Group of Five, overall is somewhat of a fun level. But as far as just, saying the Group of Five is flat out, a better option than the FCS, I think that is circumstantial, where yes, the Mountain West is a much better option than the Missouri Valley Football Conference or the Big Sky. But when we're talking about Conference USA or MAC versus the Big Sky or the Valley, and, what situations are better for certain teams, I think there's, that is not as much of a clear-cut case compared to, the American or the Mountain West, or, the Sun Belt has great stuff going on right now. But not all, FBS conferences are, just, absolutely crushing it right now.
Well, lastly, Sam, let's get to the reason why we had you on. As far as our fans go, UND, Illinois State this weekend, both 6-4. And I think when we ran through the Missouri Valley there, we saw both have a chance at getting an at-large bid. I think UND has a slightly better chance than Illinois State if they, if they win the game. But does Illinois State have a chance to get in if they win? And what do you think is going to happen this weekend in this game?
Yeah, I don't know the status of Zach Anstead, the starting quarterback for Illinois State, but him being out last week maybe suggests that he'll be out this week, and so that hurts Illinois State. This being at home, of course, also helps UND. I think UND, and like we talked about before we started recording, UND has been in this position, many times where it's, basically handle business in the final week, and you're likely in the playoffs. And so, like I think I mentioned it earlier, I do think if UND wins this game, they're going to be in the bracket, at 7-4. That the NDSU win, not only the win, but how the Fighting Hawks won, I think that's going to carry a lot of weight, especially if NDSU finishes 7-4, I think the Bison are in, and if you put the Bison in at 7-4, you, in my opinion, really have to put UND in at 7-4. And if NDSU is 8-3 and potentially a seed, I still think that kind of helps UND because they still have that head-to-head win over a seedable team. And so UND, in my opinion, is in with the win. For Illinois State, Illinois State wins that, obviously knocks UND out of the playoffs. For the Redbirds, they would finish 7-4, but I don't know if this 7-4 Illinois State team would make the bracket. They wouldn't really have, they would have one ranked win, of course, beating UND in this scenario. But other than that, they don't really have a win that stands off the page. They do have a head-to-head loss at Eastern Illinois, and Eastern Illinois could potentially be 8-3 and on the bubble, and so that would probably knock Illinois State back behind Eastern Illinois. And honestly, I don't know if Eastern Illinois is going to make the playoffs as it is. So long story short, UND's in with a win. Illinois State's with a win, I don't think is going to end up making the bracket here.
Sam, it's Matt. Last year when we talked a little bit earlier in the season, and you talked about teams that are built to win a national championship. And two at the top of your list were NDSU and SDSU. And, well, you called it perfectly, and kudos to you. I don't know if you have a crystal ball or what, but you nailed it. And both of those teams obviously went to the national championship. SDSU, not much has changed there. They're pretty much the favorite at the top of the list. It gets a little murky after that. You got the Montana States and Montana, the top 5 USD. But who in your mind, I'm going to put you on the spot, who else is built to win this national championship this year?
Yeah, that's a great question because, whether you want to call it, parity or maybe, the FCS is getting worse. I don't know about that, but, teams behind South Dakota State's, 2 through 10, 2 through 15, every team has really been inconsistent, whether it's, Montana has been inconsistent, Furman keeps on winning, but they've kind of been up and down as far as their performances. NDSU has been inconsistent. Montana State has been inconsistent. Delaware was looking good, but they dropped a questionable game a couple of weeks ago. South Dakota, they keep on winning, but, some of their performances, I don't know if they necessarily scream national title contender. And so it does kind of seem like it's South Dakota State versus everyone else. And it's kind of a big gap between South Dakota State and whoever that second team is. The Jacks have 7 ranked wins right now, and I think 5 of those are all by 3 scores or more. So they're just rolling. And so in my opinion, it's going to be South Dakota State and Frisco, and then who they face is going to be whoever wins the Brawl of the Wild this weekend, because I think if Montana wins, they're going to be the 2 seed. If Montana State wins, they'll be the 2 seed, maybe the 3 seed, but if they're the 3 seed, they would go to Furman, the number 2 seed in the semifinals, and I would probably favor Montana State to win there. So I think it'll be South Dakota State versus one of the Montana schools in Frisco. You get 3 weeks to prep for that game, and you never know. You put together a great game plan and you play out of your mind. Maybe you knock off the Jacks, but barring injuries, of course, you never want to see that. But barring injuries, I just think the South Dakota State team is really rolling to a national title.
Good call, Shannon.
Sam Herder has been our Development Homes 360 guest. Sam, it's always great to have you on. I know you're originating out of the Twin Cities, but on my screen it says you're at Chahinkapa Zoo. So
There we go. Yeah, well, I got this cell phone several years ago in Wapaton, North Dakota. So that must
that's
be
what
why.
it's got to be, because it says you're at the zoo, but I know you're down in the Twin Cities. I know it's a busy day for you, Sam. Thank you very much for spending time with us and sharing your expertise.
Yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Sam Herder was brought to you by Development Homes of Grand Forks. They've been providing opportunities and a continuum of care since 1974. It's time to take a look around the Missouri Valley Football Conference, and that is brought to you by the Toasted Frog. And fellas, we're getting a lot of comments about our newest sponsor, the Toasted Frog. People love it. People love the Toasted Frog. They're happy that the Frog is on with UND Football 360.
Overwhelming response, really.
Yeah.
I mean, geez, I keep hearing it from people in town, and they see it on Twitter, and yeah, it's been good. I'm glad we were able to partner up with them. Very good, respectable, high quality, fine dining restaurant. Oh, it's great. It's been awesome. John and those guys do a great job. But yeah, it's funny though. I get DMs. I get people around town that have mentioned to me. I'm like, wow, that really resonated.
You know, it sort of brings up the old saying, "You are who you hang with." So that raises our profile to have the Frog on both locations, Fargo and Grand Forks, raises the profile of UND Football 360.
One of the best restaurants in the Valley and one of the best podcasts in the Valley, right?
Well, there you go. You know, boom! That's what we're going to have to do. You know, next time Tom Miller is on, he has his Missouri Valley Football Conference power rankings. I want a podcast ranking. I want to go up against, you know, the boys on FCS Nation and all these others. And then I want to go up against Jackrabbit Illustrated, because I got a bone to pick with them. All of a sudden, the Jackrabbit Illustrated guys are picking who should be in and who should be out of the playoffs. What's that all about?
Got to remember where you came from, guys.
Oh, no kidding.
Now no 7-4s are really worth it anymore. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, I think, you know what I think? I think we should all save a lot of bus and plane money and just crown them champs and have it be done with.
All right.
Well, again, thanks to the Toasted Frog, we are going to take a look around the Missouri Valley Football Conference. Of course, you heard in our earlier segment with Sam Herder all the implications and things that are going on in the Missouri Valley, but we are going to look more closely at last week's outcomes and what it means. And I think the biggest surprise, fellas, Missouri State in Springfield downs Northern Iowa 35-16.
That's kind of a shocker. Not that they won, but won by that much.
That much.
I mean, it's certainly a winnable game for them, but boy,
it was never even.
It was never in doubt.
Close.
I watched the game.
Close.
I tracked the game. It was never close. Northern Iowa got handled, and it surprised me.
Yeah, because they have everything to play for. They seem to have righted the ship, you know. And actually, when you look back at the UND game, they weren't that dominant or anything. It was just a slow death, you know, for UND as it went on. The offense just couldn't get anything going, but the defense wasn't playing that bad. So really, it turned out 27-0. That was a little bit misleading, you know, about how dominant they were that day, because UND just didn't look good. But yeah, to drop that one when you're on the playoff cusp. Now they have to beat NDSU. So they beat NDSU, they should get in. But geez, that was I don't know. Now, for everyone listening, I was going to make a point about this. Other teams can look bad on the road too, I guess. It's not just UND. So
oh, thank God.
Let's just take that into account, that Northern Iowa can go on the road against the bottom feeder and get blown out. Okay, UND doesn't go on the road against the worst teams in the league and get blown out. That doesn't happen. They don't even lose to them. They just lose to the top half, yes, but they don't do that. So we're not the only one, okay, that loses on the road.
And Matt, I'm going to go to you on this one. Speaking of losing on the road, North Dakota State, and again, they down Southern Illinois 34-10. Not a good performance by the Salukis. They did not look good in this game.
No, hoping more from the Salukis. You know, Southern Illinois, they're a good football team, and any given year they have the talent level to be able to beat just about anybody in the Missouri Valley, but I was hoping more from them this weekend.
Offense, like I said, power out, and I think they've put up 7, 10, 14, and 7 against the top 4 teams on their schedule. So they just can't score. With Nick Baker. I mean, Nick Baker was supposed to be a Walter Payton Award candidate coming into the season, and they can't score. My question is it still Dale Lennon's fault that they're not winning?
Because
I read a lot of that over the years. We got to get Dale Lennon's guys out of here. That's Nick Hill's problem.
And not only that, even their broadcast team, when you
it's
would
been
listen,
8 years.
When you would listen to their radio broadcast team, the hammering that North Dakota would get, that Dakota would get, all these kinds of things. And I've had, discussions with Bubba and Dale on some of that, and some of it was just a general lack of support. These were, university employees talking that way. They weren't helping the process. Right. But I agree with you. Is that still Dale Lennon's fault? Next one. Kelly, I'm going to give this one to you. The Rabbits go in and shut out the Penguins in Youngstown.
Well, I sent out a tweet that the Penguins got their dose of reality. We all got it this year, and they got theirs last week. So they thought they were rolling. I mean, I know, because we follow a few of their fan accounts on there, and they're good people. They're good guys. But they were admittedly upbeat, right? Because they should be. They were scoring points this year. But everybody who hadn't played South Dakota State thought they were in this thing, and thought they were looking better than they were. And then you play them and I put out another tweet that showed the results of everyone in the top 5 who's played South Dakota State. Well, remember when UND lost 42-21 and they were running all over us, and how embarrassing! That was ridiculous. Well, did you look at the other scores? Northern Iowa 41-6. Okay, Youngstown was it 34-0? You said last week.
34-0.
34-0. They lost. NDSU 33-16, and South Dakota 37-3 at home. They lost. So our 42-21 isn't looking so bad anymore.
We're scoring we scored the most points against them, right?
Well, I'm just saying you got your dose of reality is coming. In the past, it was NDSU against NDSU. Now we were in the Big Sky, so we didn't get that. But you think you're better than you are. And I tweeted about this in the past. I said, being in the Big Sky, you get a false sense of superiority. Being in the SoCon, being in the CAA, you get a false sense of how good you are because you don't have to play NDSU and SDSU, okay? And you don't have to play Northern Iowa, when they're good and that type of thing. Well, now we're getting it, and you fall in line now to where you are in the country in the FCS landscape because you're facing it every year.
Yeah, week in and week out. And I think I was looking at the stats on that. I was watching and monitoring that game a little bit. I think Youngstown had 2+ field position appearances in that game.
Is that it?
I think they had 2.
Oh, jeez.
So it was
and they were
dominant.
Scoring big points,
and they were
too.
scoring
That's
big
surprising.
Points. It was pretty dominant. A lot of 3-and-outs. Matt, our favorite Indiana State Sycamores, the team with all heart this year, gets their first win over Western Illinois, 27-6.
Hats off to the Sycamores.
Absolutely.
We called it last week.
And again, this is
lots of pride in that
this
program.
is not a Bronx cheer. We do have a lot of respect for that program because they've been in a lot of games this year.
Well, they could have won the UND game. Yeah, that's for sure.
They're a good team. I mean, they're good players, well coached. Lots of pride in the program. They just fall a little bit short in the games. And hats off to the Sycamores. Yeah, happy for them to get their win.
And finally, this week's opponent, the Illinois State Redbirds, take it to Murray State 44-7 at home.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I watched, rewatched it, and Murray didn't look like they had much to offer in that one. They weren't real too enthused in the up front in the run game. I know they weren't looking to stop much, but it was different quarterback. I mean, we're going to get into our preview with Illinois State, but they got a different quarterback now. So with the injury to Annexted, so. Yeah, this is it'd be interesting. I mean, Illinois State's a good win for them, though, 44-7 coming into the LRS.
We covered the standings at length in our segment with Sam Herder, but we are going to take one more look at this week's schedule in the Missouri Valley Football Conference. And of course, once again, this is all brought to you by the Toasted Frog. We got South Dakota at Western Illinois. So the Coyotes really ending on a good schedule note.
Yeah, they already got all their tough games out of the way, and that's kind of how you want to do it. Plus, they'll get a week off.
They're going to get a week off with a seat. So Youngstown State at Murray State. Youngstown still very much in the picture, in the playoff picture. They've got probably an uphill climb given resume, but they go to Murray State.
Right. They should win that one, and then they just got to hope. They got to hope, like we mentioned, off air. I think we were talking, there's certain games around the country that have to happen to eliminate some bubble teams, and so they need all those.
Missouri State comes into South Dakota State. Matt, any chance of an upset?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
We got that.
No, even
there's the analysis on that one.
Yeah. Even if SDSU plays poorly, I think they'll still win by a couple scores.
Indiana State goes to Southern Illinois. Southern Illinois, like several other Missouri Valley teams, bubble team. Indiana State comes in. They are capable.
They're gonna have we mentioned it. Southern Illinois can't score. They're gonna have trouble with that front. So Indiana State's giving everybody fits with their front five. I don't know. I mean, they got a puncher's chance. Now, can they score? I don't know. That's their issue, but it's going to be tough for Southern Illinois. And they're playing for, their playoff lives, and they probably need a little help. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. Indiana State's got a chance in that one.
And here's a scoreboard watcher. North Dakota State goes to Northern Iowa, and you heard Sam in the earlier segment. He goes, Hawk fans, you need to be rooting for North Dakota State in this to improve the Hawks' chances for positioning. And, you got to take care of business if you're the Hawks. Got to win. But a North Dakota State win, in Sam's opinion, knocks the Panthers out.
I think
Yeah,
so.
I thought. And
it does mathematically.
Well, it does.
For sure.
It helps our
– that'd be their fifth loss.
Right.
Either way,
yes.
The only thing is – when you think about this, okay, let's say Northern Iowa wins. Now they're both 7-4. We're 7-4 because we plan on winning. Okay, I'm just going to put it out there. We plan on winning. So we're all 7-4. It's all a big circle again because we all beat each other.
Right.
Boy, then it comes down to resumes after that.
We want to avoid that.
Yeah,
we got to have.
I'd rather have someone be eliminated. I don't care if NDSU goes 8-3.
Here's a question I'm going to put to both of you: can this year's Bison squad go into Cedar Falls and win? Kelly, you first.
Yes, I mean yes, they can. I'm trying to envision which Northern Iowa team. Now Northern Iowa's a different squad at home. Okay, they're kind of turning into a UND deal where at home they're really good and on the road they're not quite the same, whereas I think they've been more even in the past, let's call it. Oh yeah, I mean NDSU can win for sure. It's just what kind of air attack is Northern Iowa going to let loose in this one, because when it gets going it's devastating and it's pretty, but they're not. It's an even matchup. I mean, in my mind, if I don't know what the spread is, but if you told me the spread was a pick-em, I'd agree. If you told me it was, anything more than 3, I'd say no. No way. So, yeah, anyway.
What do you see this coming down to? Where do you see this North Dakota State, Northern Iowa matchup, Matt?
Going to come down to 2-3 plays in the game. Probably a 3-score game. Going to be one in the fourth quarter type of game. Northern Iowa will probably come out early and hard against the Bison, but the Bison are always a team that kind of hang around and they play well in the second half. So I think that they'll, if they're going to win, they're going to come back in the fourth quarter. Northern Iowa, I think, will come out flying. They'll go up early, maybe 1-2 scores on them, and then I think the Bison will come back, maybe get close, and for our sake, hopefully win.
See, when I look at this, I don't know if UND can get hurt. I'm trying to pull up some things. I don't know if UND can get hurt by this one too much. Yeah, the Northern Iowa loss hurts, but as I go to this thing, it's like if we're all 7-4, NDSU's not getting in front of us. Okay, they'll look at that, but then they'll say, okay, Northern Iowa. And I think it'll depend on other games is what'll happen to where all 3 of us will get, all 3 would get in is what I think would happen, because there's no way the committee would be like, all right, NDSU, you're in, but UND, you're not. There's just no way, because we just beat Illinois State, who will be 6-5 and number 23 in the Massey, I think is what it is. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't know. Is there any thoughts? Am I over simplifying this thing?
No, what I think is that Sam brought it up that if NDSU wins, they have a potential at the eighth seed, and it pretty much just eliminates them. If they lose, it eliminates them from a seed. Now we're all playing games, and then it'll probably bump out Furman or somebody like that.
Yeah, I don't think UND can get hurt because Northern Iowa beat Youngstown. That'll help them. They beat Illinois State, so that'd be a wash, but they just lost to Missouri State, who, as near as I can tell, is going to have a losing record, correct? Yeah. Missouri State's going to end with a losing record. Well, UND doesn't have a bad loss, and we've seen in the past bad losses will hurt you.
Well, however it shakes down, that is our look around the Missouri Valley Football Conference. It was brought to you by the Toasted Frog with locations in downtown Fargo and downtown Grand Forks. Guys, we're going to have to take a break. That is a lot to unpack in our first segment. When we come back, we're going to have our Thunder Lake Lodge 360 game preview, which includes the Hail Mary Quiz 360 game preview, Kelly and Matt's picks by Rumors Sports Bar, Grill, and Casino. We have a 1 p.m. kickoff Saturday at the Alara Center. Home game, everything on the line for the Hawks. Folks, get your green on this weekend.
Let's go do it. All right. Okay, let's do it. All right.
Check one, sibilance. Check two, sibilance.
War's over, man. Wormer dropped the big one.
What? Over? Did you say over? Nothing is over until we decide it is. Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? Hell no!
Germans? Forget it, he's rolling.
It ain't over now. Because when the going gets tough, the tough get going. Who's with me? Let's go! Come on!
This is Will Rattell, and you're listening to UND Football 360.
Welcome back to the UND Football 360 podcast. Shannon, Kelly, and Matt. Segment 2, introduced by Will Rattell. And when the tough gets going, you need Will Rattell.
Yeah, that was a pretty good guy that UND had in the past. And he's still ready to go.
He still looks like he could do it.
Oh, he has no doubt he could get on the field right now and still play at the same level he did.
I saw some of he's like a power lifter now, and see some of the videos online, and oh my God, he's probably twice as strong as he was when he played.
Perfect form on all his Olympic lifts.
For sure,
yeah, he's he's our UND strength coach, so these kids are learning from him on the form, which form is the number one thing. And so, yeah, it's been great. I'm glad he's stuck around the program.
Yeah, good to have guys stick around and reinvest, and we need people like that.
Well, we have the Illinois State Redbirds in this weekend, so we've had a lot of Illinois. Cole Reyes introduced us in the first segment, the Schaumburg, Illinois All-American for North Dakota. And then, of course, we had to turn to the boys from Aurora, Illinois, in Wayne's World. And Matt, that was a tribute to you, because that's always Matt's mic test when we test our mics at the start of the show. You guys don't get to hear it, but sibilance is always.
I say it every week. Yeah,
test
every
1,
week.
2,
sibilance. Big Wayne's World fan growing up.
Oh, yeah.
90s kid, right?
Yep.
Wayne's World.
And then
that shocked the world. It too. Everyone, whoa, that's the funniest thing I've ever seen in my.
And then, you got to turn to our friend Blutowski from Animal House to let us know it ain't over. And it ain't over for the Fighting Hawks. This is our Thunder Lake Lodge 360 game preview. UND comes in number 13 in the country, give or take. We'll take 13. Illinois State receiving votes, unranked, 1 p.m. kickoff at the Alara Center.
Yeah, this is a top 25 matchup because they should be ranked. Illinois State's a good team, and before we get into the minutia of it, you look at it, they're 6-4. Okay, they were the team that I said before the season. I think we did our preseason podcast. I said that schedule's going to kill them. So they got to pull an upset or they're not getting in the playoffs. We even went as far as to say, hey, on November 18th, they're going to show up at the Alara Center. They're going to need a win. They're going to need a big win. Well, here we are. UND needs a big win. They need a big win, and I don't even know if they'll get in if they do. But, yeah, they just didn't quite take care of, what they needed to do in the top of their schedule, but they beat the other team. So this is a good team. They always look good.
They always look good. And, Matt, it's only the third all-time matchup between the Hawks and the Redbirds. So, a little bit of a mystery yet, although Brock's back 15 years. And with Stig's retirement, he's got to be the dean of Missouri Valley football coaches right now.
Yeah, well,
He'd
Farley.
Have
Farley and Spack.
Farley and Spack.
Yep, they're it.
So,
only not a lot to look back on, not a lot of history with these two programs, but good team coming into Laris. Rittenhouse looks good. Good quarterback, good offense. But
last time they came, that was a rock fight.
That was a rock fight.
Jeez, that was. And I've made light of it over the last couple of years, but it was. They were more than happy to run inside zone or RPO, which turned into inside zone, and maybe throw a pop pass to the tight end and punt. And they just kept doing it and kept doing it and kept doing it. And UND's offense couldn't get anything going because Illinois State's defense is good. And it was, we won the game, but geez, was that brutal.
But before we get into the weeds, Kelly, pardon my interruption, we got to have this week's Hail Mary quiz.
No, there we go.
And as we know, in the Hail Mary quiz, there is no prize for the winner, but there is a chore for the loser. And you just heard mic check done expertly by Tom Hanks in an Aurora, Illinois Wayne's World skit on Saturday Night Live. And here's what the loser of this week's Hail Mary quiz has coming up. The Jonas Brothers are coming to the Alara Center, right?
Well, they canceled it.
They did.
Canceled it last night. You know where they're going?
I was not aware of that.
No, last night they canceled it. They're going to College Game Day at James Madison instead Saturday morning. So they had to cancel this Friday night's concert. They had to cancel. They're in, what are they, Winnipeg the day before? Winnipeg now and like St. Paul Sunday or something like that. So they canceled just Grand Forks' concert to go to College Game Day.
I had not heard. Well,
Can you believe that?
It's terrible.
That's brutal.
But not only does it make this week's chore even more of a chore because you got to go to James Madison to do this week's chore. So the loser of this week's Hail Mary quiz has to be a grunt and the mic check man for the Jonas Brothers at James Madison.
I'll sign up.
Mic check.
I'll go.
Already go. James Madison. Well, what's dumb about that? Yeah, but they're going to go there, and what are they? They're going to be on for 30 minutes tops. I don't know. Whatever. They'll be in and out of the segments.
Yeah. Play 2 songs and you're done.
Cancel the entire concert that people, they're a big name, so the people who are fans of theirs have been waiting for this.
Right. But, from a corporate standpoint, though, they're looking at this as a lot more exposure. Yeah. They're going to get more exposure on College Game Day than they are in Grand Forks.
Well, we'll show them. We'll send one of the team from UND Football 360 to do their mic check. Gentlemen, are you aware that Red Wilson's kickoff return for a touchdown was the 21st in UND football history? Were you aware?
I did not know that.
I did not know that.
Well, it was. I'm here to teach you people. The first was on September 30th, 1961 versus Morningside. A gentleman named Bill Harbercorn returned at 75 yards for a touchdown. This week's Hail Mary quiz is all about numbers. Of those 21, how many, there was at least 2, because 2 opening kickoffs happened this year for the Fighting Hawks. How many of those 21 kickoff returns for a touchdown opened the game? How many were opening game kickoff returns? We're going to go to Matt Nelson first. Matt, how many of the 21 opened the game?
I will say 5.
Okay. Matt Nelson says 5. Kelly Howe, how many do you say of those 21 opened up the game?
4.
Oh, you Price is right.
Matt Nelson,
Bob Barker.
you are the winner.
Oh,
yes! 5. You nailed it. Kelly didn't even have a chance. Kelly didn't even have a chance.
On the head.
So here they are in chronological order on September 22nd, 1984. September 22nd, 1984 in Brookings, Tracy Martin returned the opening kickoff.
Tracy Martin.
Next up,
that name before.
September 20th, 1997, which coincidentally was the 30th birthday of the host. In Grand Forks, Chris Schrantz against South Dakota State ran the opening kickoff back.
Yeah, I was there.
Kelly was there.
On the field, I remember
Kelly
that.
was on the field.
Yeah.
That's right. That would have been your era, 1997. Yep. In 2016, October 29th, 2016, against Weber State in Grand Forks, John Santiago ran the opening kickoff back and electrified the Alaris crowd. And then, of course, October 14th, 2023, this season, North Dakota State, Luke Skokna, 100-yard return. And just this past weekend, November 11th, 2023, at South Dakota, Red Wilson, 99 yards. Now, that's pretty impressive, Matt Nelson, that you knew that. And also, if anybody is wondering, why is Luke Skokna's return considered 100 yards and not 101 yards? Because in college football, if you bring it out of the end zone, they don't tack on anything in the end zone. In professional football, they do. If you return at 107 yards in professional football, it's a 107-yard return. College football statistics, the most you can have is a 100-yard return. So that is this week's Hail Mary quiz. And now we can get into the weeds on the 360 game preview. And like always, it's brought to you by Thunder Lake Lodge. You know, last week I could feel Reamer, Minnesota trying to get us into the end zone, and our friend Craig Riondo.
Yeah, he was watching, and I don't know. It was a tough one. But talked to Craig a little bit this week and fired up for this weekend. You know, gotta move ahead to Illinois State. But yeah, it's when I look at this game, the first thing I wanted to point out to everyone, this is not your father's Illinois State offense. Okay, they're trying to score points this year. Okay, they're not purposely holding themselves back. I would put it as they did in the past, just to try to win by 3. And 411 yards of offense. They seem to be taking more chances, playing a little no huddle, doing some no huddle. So that's interesting. They hadn't done that in the past. But yeah, Matt, you mentioned Rittenhouse. Quarterback Tommy Rittenhouse is in now.
Yeah.
Because Annexted, the Minnesota transfer, is hurt. Mm-hmm. I think in a knee issue. So there's probably a chance he's not playing. So Rittenhouse is a different kind of player, 5'11", 190, kind of a Tommy. Looks a lot like Tommy, can run, will run. So different than Annexted. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, it's gonna be an interesting, I kind of had a feel. I thought I had a feel for Illinois State coming into this year, but they've changed things up. Credit to Brock's back. They've tried to score points, and they are. What do they got, 32 a game? So, yeah, I mean, they're trying to juice things up a little bit. It obviously puts your defense in bad spots at times when you do that. But the quarterbacks, they've only allowed 7 sacks all year. And that's a very impressive stat. And the offensive line, we like to rank offensive lines. I'm going to put this in the top 3. This is a good unit. Yep, this is a very good unit, very solid, big kids. When you watch them, Illinois State always has big offensive linemen. They always have the Matt let's go looking offensive linemen. Yeah, they got a couple more, and so this is going to be tough.
Yeah, especially Rittenhouse, you said is a different type of player, but man, it was against Murray State, so take that with a grain of salt. I watched that game, but he looks comfortable back there. He looks like he can run the offense efficiently. They were rolling against Murray State, but he's a good decision maker. He can run their offense very efficiently. Mason Blakemore, obviously their go-to running back, scored 3 touchdowns against Murray. Obviously he's their Isaiah Smith type of guy that we like to run to. But the running game looks good. They're going to run some inside zone, outside zone, kind of spread you out a little bit. They're going to take their chances, and then they are turn into kind of a passing first type of offense, where then they'll try to get you with a pass and then go inside zone on you. So they're all over the place. We're gonna have to have a lot of discipline on defense this week because they are across the field.
Their offense reminds me of UND in a little bit.
Very much so. Yeah, very much so.
They get the ball out quick, which the 7 sacks, would allude to that, right? They like to get the ball out quick, a lot of inside zone, stuff like that. But big offensive line, physical. Sobkowitz, number 2, the wide receiver. He's a heck of a player. 6'3" kid, 54 catches, 8 touchdowns on the year. Obviously, he's going to be an issue, for our corners. We've been getting beat at times, and even though Devin Hembry has been playing very well, and we didn't mention him in the game review, but he had a beautiful interception in the end zone where he went up and snagged it. But overall, we've been getting picked on a little bit in the passing game when we shouldn't be, in my opinion. And Sobkowitz is going to be another one of those guys that, hey, we gotta defend it because they're going to go deep to him. They're going to throw it up, and as we've said all year, if you defend a few of them, they'll stop doing it because they don't want to look stupid. Keep trying the same thing, and so if you defend it early, things work out, later on.
And perfect example, Murray State seemed to defend their inside zone decently in the first couple series of the game, and then Illinois State just went to pass first, pass, and then they went back to the inside draw, outside zone type of stuff once they establish the passing game. So they're going to do what works. They're kind of, like you said, very similar to UND, where we don't know what we're going to run. We're going to run what works for this defense that we're going up against. And they're not afraid to change their game plan. So that's why I said, our defense is going to have to be disciplined and make sure that we're on point the whole game because they're not afraid to change it up.
They're similar to UND in that they're better at home, I think, than they are on the road. So that'll help us. Help UND. Obviously, we know how UND plays at home, and I would expect a full effort. But moving to the other side of the ball, the one thing you can count on when Illinois State walks in is they're going to look really pretty on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, it's gorgeous. When you look at those guys, it's like 6'3" safeties, 6'1", 6'2" corners, and they're just long, athletic, fill out their pads, and they play hard, and they're twitchy up front, and they got their big guy over the at nose, and then they got their athletic defensive ends, and they're good defensively. Again, 20 points a game. That's all you need to do is look at that right there. 28 sacks. So not a huge pressure team, I don't think, but when they bring it, they bring like 6. I mean, they'll just all of a sudden send everyone they like to bring them from the same side, type of thing, overload one side. And so that's a lot of this game because UND does so much RPO. It's going to be on Tommy to get up there and identify it pre-snap. Now, he's not going to be able to tell, obviously, pre-snap if they're pressuring, but they tip you off, obviously, the defensive line, right? I mean, you played up there. The way the defensive line aligns kind of tips you off if the pressure's coming and what side it's coming from. So it's going to be very important that he gets UND into the right sets, is my point.
Right, and just to speak on the athleticism of Illinois State, they have a lot of confidence in their D-line because if you watch the last few games that they've played, their outside defensive ends, they go in a 2-point, and they're walked off a little bit off that tackle. So they're, very rare to see defensive ends up in a 2-point. They play like a half linebacker, outside linebacker position. So they have some confidence in those guys in the athleticism, and then they can also be a pass rush type of guy too. So Sometimes during the game on Saturday, you will see just 2 down linemen on that defensive front. So that's one thing that I picked up. I'm like, oh, wow, these guys are talented on the outside especially. So we're going to have to
offensive line-wise now, it's communication.
Right.
You know.
So that's going to add a wrinkle to our O-line and to our offense where we're going to have to be heads up because they'll be able to sniff out a lot of what we do off the edge and some of the quick passes out to Isaiah, stuff like that. That they're not afraid to send a D lineman out there.
One thing I did notice in the stats, allowing 41% on third down. Interesting. That's not very good. And UND isn't real great on third down either. But chances for the offense is the point there. I mean, this isn't a dominant defense in all phases all the time. They're good. This is a top, I call it a top 5 defense in the Missouri Valley. I think, we could call it that.
Yeah.
And safe,
I think
so
that's
it's
fair.
It's going to be tough.
Yeah. Certainly for the talent-wise they are. I mean, their stats might not say that necessarily across the board, but certainly a talented Missouri Valley. And I think, if you want to be a good Missouri Valley team, you need a good stout defense.
Yeah, it'll be on Tommy. He's going to have to make plays. He's going to be scrambling. We know that because they're going to get after him up front. They're going to flush him. Seems like when UND is rolling, you guys, Tommy's finding guys downfield. And that really sparks the crowd and sparks the team is when he flushes out of the pocket and finds that deep crosser. It's like the crowd senses that everybody senses that there was nothing there and we made something happen and moved the chains and now everyone's fired up. That's going to have to happen in this game. I think he's going to be running a little bit. And also very similar to the NDSU game. When they bring that pressure, when they decide, okay, they're going to bring the pressure from the one side, Tommy's got to pick up on it as the ball's being snapped because he won't quite know, like I alluded to. But once that ball's being snapped, he's going to see it coming. There's always a pass to every run. There always is. That's just the football these days. Does he process it quick enough to not hand that ball off? Because you hand the ball off, your running back's dead. To get it out in the flat, get the RPO, and then now the perimeter blocking, which UND's been very good at perimeter blocking throughout the year. I mean, granted, South Dakota, I think it could have been better, in my opinion. But very good perimeter blockers. That's why our screens work. So look for that.
So, Kelly, you're saying it's not necessarily a check down. It's an RPO that's decided at snap.
Yeah,
it's an RPO.
Every run has a pass play attached to it. And I used to watch that and wonder, why is Bo running a bubble when we handed it off up the middle? Why is Bo, running a fade? Well, sometimes you run a fade just to get the guy out of there. Okay, yeah, he was doing that. Well, no, they're always meant. If you watch, they run downfield. The other two blockers will run downfield and block. So if you hand it off, they're blocking. If you throw the bubble, they're blocking because the bubble's behind the line.
Behind the line.
So you can't get a penalty. So there's always a pass attached to every run. And I struggled to pick up on that because I didn't know. I'm not obviously privy to the new age offense. I'm not sitting in on meetings and stuff.
Right.
But I always kind of wonder, what the heck are they always running these fake pass plays for on the outside? Well, no, they're not fake. They're real. Those receivers think they're getting the ball every play. It's just whether Tommy pulls it and throws it to him or not. So, yeah, this is one of those games I think where you're going to see a whole lot of that just because how Illinois State plays up front. It's going to be tough sledding. This is not going to be a game where I was 175 yards rushing, 200. I would be shocked if we got a ton of yards rushing. So, 3-phase, Matt.
Yeah.
I mean, we want to win this game. It's going to be a 3-phase effort. They're not going to be able to struggle through this one because this team's very close to South Dakota in talent. And, I mean, there's not a whole lot of difference, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's turn our attention to Kelly's and Matt's picks, which is sponsored by Rumors Sports Bar, Grill, and Casino. And, talking about giving up, I know Billy and the boys haven't given up at Rumors.
Nope.
They are going to be there early.
Never. They will never give up.
They
never give up on the ponies either.
The odds are always in their favor.
Exactas.
At Rumors.
Yeah, 3-horse exactas is what they like to hit over there.
There you go.
Yeah. It'll be on. They're fired up. I think there'll be hockey that night.
hockey
too,
that
right?
night
So
as well.
it'll be a full day there because
Who
they're running the
comes in?
buses.
Somebody help me out. Who comes in for hockey?
Miami of Ohio.
Miami of Ohio comes in.
So you can spend the whole weekend at Rumors if you really want to.
Yeah.
Well, the buses run, and those buses are great because they run you out to the Alaris Center. They bring you back. You eat, have your drink. By the time you're done, the bus heads right out to the Ralph. And you never drive. I was in there the other weekend, and the way that works is just amazing. The place was full in between games, full because everybody came back on the bus, and all of a sudden everyone starts heading out, and then a new crowd comes in at 6:30. Something like that. The new crowd starts to trickle in as the bus people are leaving, and there's just always people in there. It's an unbelievable deal for people because you don't have to deal with $15 a person to park at the Alaris.
Yeah.
Who priced that too? By the way,
I don't know.
Holy my God!
It went up 50% in 1 year.
Well, it was 5. Then it was 10 a few years ago, right?
15. Yeah.
And now it's 15, and it's like.
Again, we're not in on these decisions. Those are most likely facility decisions, not University of North Dakota decisions. I'm sure they're negotiating.
Well, it just tells you the value of taking a bus out there, and they pull you up to the front door. So I mean, it's starting to really be worth it.
And if you take the bus, that's 1.5 more $9 Busch Lights that you can have at the venue.
Right.
And the number of people that are parking outside of Alaris parking or Ralph parking and walking is strong. Now, I want to see if they do that in January at the Ralph because, I used to have pretty good parking at the Ralph, and it was still miserable after the game walking north, towards the Albatross. So.
Years ago, I haven't been to a game for years, but my wife and I went to a game. I don't know, we got tickets somehow, and it must have been January, February, okay? I get as close as I can, drop her off. If it was 0, I'd say it was warm. It was not 0. It was below 0. Okay, it was awful. I ended up parking, what's that school to the east there? Is it West? Is that called West, or the school just to the east across University? Okay, there's a school over there, 2 blocks past University to the east. Okay, so yeah, on the other side of University. Okay, or Columbia, not University, Columbia.
Oh, okay.
The other side of Columbia. Yeah, I screwed it up. I parked over in the school parking lot. Okay, because there is no parking at the Ralph. It's not like I was trying to save $5. There is no parking. You can't get in. So I parked over there and walked. By the time I got there, I mean, it was almost call the ambulance time because I didn't have a hat. I didn't have gloves.
It was like you were back in college.
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately. I'm not going to talk about that anymore. Yes, exactly is my point. But I could not feel my fingers, my ear. I mean, it was probably 30 minutes. I was inside the building before I became comfortable. And yeah, I mean, but the walking the other day, whatever the last home game was, they were coming from Altru direction. Okay, past the gas station across the street.
Dairy.
And Dairy.
Valley
Dairy. They were 5 blocks down the road because there's not a whole lot of parking. You have to just fill up the neighborhoods there. Yep. They were coming from, they're damn near at 34th down there by Altru walking because I think that $15 is like making people
it's making them make that decision. My daughter and son-in-law and their kids missed kickoff last game because the parking lot was stacked up. A little bit, and they missed the kickoff. But yeah, the $15 makes people think about it. Well, let's get to Matt and Kelly's picks last week. Matt picked the Hawks. Kelly picked the Coyotes. I forget what the scores they picked, but we know the outcome. It was a 14-10 win by the Coyotes, and that makes Kelly the winner. His record is now 7-2-1. He's playoff eligible. Matt drops to 2-7-1, and he is pack the gear eligible. So, but Matt,
I'm a lot better than what my record shows.
You are a lot better than what your record shows.
I should have had that win last weekend.
You should have. And you get to go first this week, Matt. And we're going to turn it to you and say, who do you have in this Battle of the Birds, Hawks versus Redbirds?
Well, it's going to be a good game, so don't expect a blowout by any means by UND. So this is going to be a battle. It's going to be a good test for UND. I think we need that too at home, a good test at home, and to gain some confidence. And our team's going to know that, hey, we got to play to our best ability here this weekend and end the season on a high note. With all of that in mind, I think there's going to be some points on Saturday. I'm thinking like 28-21 UND.
Matt goes 28-21 Hawks. We turn it to Kelly, who is coming into this week a winner. Kelly, who do you have in this one?
I'm going to go a little less points than that. I could see that. I was in that range with my prediction. It's going to be very good football game. Very good Missouri Valley football game for 4 quarters for sure. I mean, these two teams are evenly matched. I give the nod to UND because they're at home, because they seem to win these games when they have to get in the playoffs. They've been in this situation many times, as we've pointed out. They like to be 6-4 heading into the last week or whatever, or 7-3 and got to get the win. Whatever, you name it, they got to get the win. And I think UND pulls this one out. Last week I didn't like the setup, and it turned out actually a little different. I mean, they should have won the game. I thought it was going to be a different style of game. No, UND played them even. Stats didn't show even, but UND made plays to keep things even, put it that way. And this week I'm going UND, but I'm going to go a little bit less. I'm going to go about a 24-18. Kind of an odd, 24-18, tight game. I don't know how we pull this thing out. I think we're just leading. I think we hold on. We hold on at the end. Illinois State might have the ball at the end with a chance. We get a 4th down stop, walk off the field with hands in the air, and look forward to a Thanksgiving playoff game.
Last time Illinois State came into the Alaris Center, that same scenario played out, and it was 2 Jackson Turner sacks that finished the game. That was an exciting finish. So Kelly Howe goes 24-18 Hawks. I never pick a winner or a score, but I tell you what to watch for in the game. I'm going to say the Hawks block a punt in this one because they were close at South Dakota last week. Yep. Also watch for this. Red Wilson throws a touchdown pass. In this game. Hey,
okay,
crazier things have happened. It's always fun working with the two of you. We're going to get to your final thoughts here in a little bit, but I want to point out that when we get to playoff time, we never know if we're going to have another week. We're week by week on all of this. It's always good doing these podcasts with you, and I am hoping that neither Texas A&M or Boise State picks either one of you off as their next head coach, because those would be big shoes to fill here on UND Football 360.
Right. That's the silly season is starting. Boise, I'm not surprised by that one, but Texas A&M. Stroke that check.
Right. $75 million doesn't change the decision. It's incredible. There's a lot of money in college football. The question I have with the Boise State firing is why during the season? I never understand why they do that mid-season. I know they want to get a jump, but
I just think that's what it was.
Recruiting deal too. Get a new guy in before the end of the season to talk to all your recruits before the December signing day.
I think that's what it is. They got to get a little bit bigger jump. Well, because they might, make some poor bowl game, and then that delays it to. Is he going to be coaching in a bad bowl game on December 21st?
Yeah. And if he knows he's on his way out, right? Does he mail it in?
Yeah, I understand it, and there were issues out there. There were issues in the coaching staff and stuff. So not a huge surprise that he got let go, but that's an attractive job, though.
It is. Yep, that is an attractive job. There's going to be some dominoes falling on that one. Kelly Howe, we're going to give you final thoughts first.
Get the win. Bid big again. Bill Chaves. And I think if UND just sends in their bid this year competitively, again, 127,000 or probably maybe even add a little more, make it 130,000 this year, and put the word out this year. Bill, I'm sure he will spread the word to his buddies on there's a big number inside that envelope, guys. All right, let's just do it right this year. Let's get it done right. So
do what's fair.
I think what will happen is UND will win this weekend, and then get a home game. And awesome. I think some of that'll have to do with last year's debacle. I think they'll get a home game somehow, but
not that we want a gimme, because of what happened last year. But I think it's fair.
Well, they should have got one last year.
Right.
It's just okay. Are you getting me going
again? I'm stoking the fire.
I know. I started to get fired up there again. I'm like, I was going to go off on a 10-minute rant again, but I'm not going to do that. But yeah, this year, we'll put in the same bid, and this year it'll be respected. Let's leave it at that.
There you go. Yep. There you go.
Matt Nelson, your final thoughts on this upcoming weekend?
Like Kelly said, let's get the win. Let's get some momentum going into our first playoff game. We talked about it. We win, we're in. Let's get the win. Let's get some momentum. Our guys respond to momentum at home even better. Go Hawks.
Well, here are my final thoughts. Hawks have to make the playoffs because then next week you will hear Kelly Howe's Coach Mora playoff imitation. We're going to hold it off. We aren't going to let him do it this week, but he will do it next week. Guys, thanks. What an effort again. You guys always bring it. It is fantastic. We're going to remind the fans of who makes this possible. Rumor Sports Bar, Grill, and Casino, Development Homes Incorporated, Thunder Lake Lodge of Reamer, Minnesota, the Kelly Howe Agency of Nodak Mutual Insurance, Interstate Industrial, and the Toasted Frog of Grand Forks and Fargo. UND Football 360 is recorded at the 3-Run Single Media Studios in Rocking Horse Farm, Fargo. For more Fighting Hawks football coverage, visit UNDFootball360.com. 1 p.m. kickoff. UND versus Illinois State with everything on the line. Get to the Alara Center. Folks, get your green on this weekend. Go Hawks.